adverse abandonment of the Santa Cruz Branch Rail Line with the Surface Transportation Board. As you all know, just before Christmas, Greenway submitted signatures on a petition to the County Elections Department. Should their initiative qualify for the ballot, the question of whether or not to rail bank the Santa Cruz Branch Rail Line will be put to a direct vote of the people. After nearly a decade of engaging the public in determining the best use of the corridor, remember the Monterey Bay Sanctuary Scenic Trails Master Plan adopted in 2014, the half-cent tax Measure D voters passed in 2016, remember the 2019 Unified Corridor Investment Study decision to use the corridor for high-capacity public transit and a trail. Remember the Transit Corridor Alternatives Analysis, which concluded just last year with this body choosing electric passenger rail as the locally preferred alternative. To undo those many years of public input by now attempting to abandon the rail corridor during a closed session hidden away from the public would be a subversion of the public trust. I hope that this rumor is untrue. If, however, this commission ever considers such a decision, they do so with full transparency and abundant public input. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like Brian from Trail Now, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Brian from Trail Now. Thank you. Happy New Year's, everyone. 2021 was really a great year by this organization, the RT, especially the RT staff. They've done phenomenal work. Thank you, staff, for doing the work that you're doing. Going into 2022, our community has a great opportunity to build the Santa Cruz Coastal Trail from Watsonville to Davenport. The Santa Cruz Coastal Corridor is a critical transportation resource. It's one of 3 transportation corridors that span our county. We have Highway 1, we have SoCal Drive, and we have the Coastal Corridor. All of them need to be open to allow our community to easily have mobility across the county. And the Coastal Corridor is closed. It's been closed for a decade. The RTC's own studies have shown that a design of the Coastal Corridor as for active transportation would have a reduction in Highway 1 traffic, would improve our community's mobility across the county. A single highway lane has a capacity of 2,000 people an hour, 2,000 people an hour. The studies show that the Coastal Corridor designed for active transportation would have 1,000 users an hour. So it's essentially the half of a highway length. Yeah, granted, it's not that point of measurement right at the middle, but it draws across the county in the way of transit. So 1,000 users for commuting, for going to school, it will impact our transportation. And it will impact global climate. It is the best thing to do, and moving forward with opening the Coastal Corridor for active transportation. We all know the legal process now, the federal guidelines on rail banking, which is preserving the property for mass transit in the future. And it actually is required that we do it because, as we can see from those other communities around us, they're losing the property because they did not rail bank. You absolutely have to rail bank. You absolutely need to open up the Coastal Corridor. So please continue to do the great work you're doing. We're very excited about the RTC's momentum. So appreciate your time and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peoples. Next up, Equity Transit.
Hi, welcome. Happy New Year. Thank you for all the work you do. Equity Transit understands that the executive RTC staff may be seeking adverse abandonment on the Santa Cruz branch line during a closed door session, January 13th, 2022. Equity Transit is opposed to adverse abandonment for numerous reasons, but especially in light of the extensive community involvement regarding the protection of our publicly owned Santa Cruz branch line for future passenger and freight rail use. These discussions must remain public. Greenway's misleading ballot measure will likely qualify for the June ballot and intends to railbank and destroy our tracks through removal and delete all future support of passenger rail efforts from our Santa Cruz County General Plan. Equity Transit is opposed to this ballot measure as Greenway's efforts work against national and state efforts to maintain and protect our national and state rail infrastructure. The growing international and national efforts serve to implement robust public transportation systems that will move us away from an environmentally destructive automobile-centric modes of transportation. Given that Greenway's leaders Manu Koenig and Rob Quinn are currently serving as RTC commissioners, we find it deeply concerning that the RTC staff appears to be running a parallel effort in closed session prior to the June 2022 vote, attempting adverse abandonment for the purpose of railbanking. And we believe this goes against the intentions of the Brown Act, ensuring transparency, requiring public business be conducted openly. Political sensitivity of an item is not lawful reason for a closed session discussion. So any efforts by the RTC to abandon or railbank our rails should be put on hold until after the June vote, and any sessions discussing abandonment of our publicly owned tracks or railbanking should be made fully available to the public and not in closed sessions. It's important to remind the RTC commissioners, their alternates, the staff, that the voting majority of this county supported applying for and received funds from Proposition 116, the Clean Air and Transportation Improvement Act, which allowed us in 2012 to purchase the Santa Cruz branch line specifically for developing passenger rail. And in 2013, the final environmental impact report was approved by the RTC for our award-winning Monterey-based Sanctuary Scenic Trail, including 32 miles of trail from Davenport to Watsonville. Our coastal rail trail is being built right now. Thank you so much, RTC. Any efforts by the RTC commissioners, staff, or Greenway to change these plans and destroy the tracks would very likely result in further delays in bringing this wonderful trail and future electric light rail to our community. I just want to point out, in recent UN climate change conferences in November in Glasgow, our global leaders shared pertinent changes that must be quickly implemented around the world to preserve our future for living organisms on this planet. The consensus is clear: highway widening must stop. Our future is dependent on prioritizing and building robust, equitable, zero-carbon public transportation systems accessible by safe pedestrian and bikeways. Electric light rail is the most energy efficient and least environmentally damaging form of transportation ever invented. All our efforts need to be razor-focused on implementing our robust electric light rail and e-busing systems in our community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Faulkner. Okay, we have one attendee with a hand up, and that is David Van Brink. And this will be our last commenter for oral communications, or this will be the last call. So if anybody else in the audience wants to weigh in, please do raise your hand now. Otherwise, we'll call on our last speaker, Mr. Van Brink. Go for it.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Hi, all. Yeah, David Van Brink, Santa Cruz citizen. Happy New Year. Yes, the rumor mentioned is concerning. I'm sure it's more benign than it sounds on the incomplete surface. But, please keep things open. Remember our county's long-term plans currently in progress. Consider the optics. And looking forward to all your future developments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We are now on to item 3. Yes.
Before you move on, could I ask Guy Preston if he might comment briefly on what the intention that people have been responding to is about?
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rockin. Mr.
Rockin. There has been a lot of information over the past year about preservation of the rail right away, and there will continue to be a lot of discussion about preservation of right-of-way coming in the next year. I can't specifically comment on things that are discussed in closed session, and I think Everybody understands that, and there are legal reasons for that. But we've been pretty transparent with all of the discussions over the past year, and we will continue to be doing so. So that's a sufficient comment.
If I could just ask you, it's my understanding that we, as someone on one of the members of the public commented, we can gather information in closed session about rail banking, adverse abandonment, et cetera, and some decision at the end to abandon the rail line, for example, or to apply for rail banking. Ultimately, that decision would have to come back out in public to be made. It couldn't be made in a closed session. Am I correct in that understanding? I'm just trying to relieve people's anxiety about something that's
you can make decisions. Our legal counsel isn't here, but I understand that you can make decisions in closed session and report out from closed session. Yes.
On the other hand, somebody's comment that we're not required to make the decision in closed session is something else I think people can kind of rely on.
I think that's an accurate statement too. Yeah.
That's it. I'm not looking for a definitive explanation of what some future agenda item might be, but just I think the people's concern. I understand why people are concerned, but I don't think this commission is likely to make a major decision like that in a closed session meeting and come out and say we did it and nobody can comment anymore. That's my personal view. I'm not a lawyer, but that's my view of what's unlikely this commission is going to do the decision that way, whatever we decide about something.
Okay, yes, thank you, Commissioner Ruckin. And I appreciate the additional comments, Mr. Preston. I think that this is a process and we'll be having conversations and gathering information, and certainly don't want to keep important information from the public. But thank you all for weighing in. And
and thanks everybody for being brief as well. Everybody was good without the clock.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so we can keep this meeting brief. We will move along now to Commissioner Ruckin. I thought I heard. Okay,
no,
okay.
I'm done.
Okay, great. So we will move on. I'm assuming, no additions or changes to our one item regular agenda?
That's correct. There are no changes.
Okay, so we will move on to item 4, and that is making findings for virtual meetings as per Assembly Bill 361. And Luis Mendez, our Deputy Director, will give us an intro.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll do my best to be brief as well. As you are aware, state law enacted by Assembly Bill 361 allows public agencies to hold meetings in a virtual format as long as there is declared state of emergency and the public agency makes findings specified in AB 361. Those findings must be made every 30 days, and special virtual meetings